Honorable Minister, colleagues in tertiary education, good morning. It is my pleasure to present to you the minimum standards for higher education. These standards, or what I'm presenting to you, is work in progress. It is work that has reached an advanced stage. It is at the stage now of principal level, the ministerial level, and that's why the ministry deemed it fit that before it is passed on for another process of approval, that it is presented to this house, where many minds that are in tertiary education are gathering. What I'm going to give you in this presentation is a brief introduction, the landscape of higher education that has been very well articulated by Mr. Haufiku and Dr. Kalkens just now, quality assurance system for higher education in Namibia, the challenges that we have been experiencing in implementing or administering the regulatory framework for higher education, as well as the quality assurance system, the minimum standards, which is the subject of this presentation. I will be talking about a little bit of the formulation process, the purpose, the scope, which is now the packages of minimum standards that are included, and then how it will be applied. The core function of training, research, and community engagement makes the higher education system an essential component of social and economic development. In her strive towards a knowledge-based economy, Namibia desires a higher education system that is responsive to the local and global developmental priorities. Higher education institutions in Namibia are therefore expected to produce graduates with the required knowledge, skills, attributes, and are able to compete in diverse activities at national and international levels. By law, higher education is defined as all learning programs leading to qualifications higher than grade 12 or its equivalent, and includes tertiary education but not include vocational programs, as well as programs offered at NAMCOL. However, there have been new developments of recent, whereby NAMCOL has also started offering programs that fall within the category of higher education. So those are also now classified as higher education. We might be all aware that there are programs that, or the higher education programs start from level 5. We are aware that there are programs in vocational that also start from level 5, but those that fall under higher education are those that fit the category as prescribed in the Higher Education Act. A higher education institution is an institution that is established by law, that those are our public institutions, or institution that is registered in accordance with the Higher Education Act. The Higher Education Act takes from the Constitution that prescribes that each person has the right to offer education in general, and in particular higher education, but such person should do so only after that institution has been registered. So that is echoed in the Higher Education Act, and the procedures are prescribed. As of today, there are 19 institutions in Namibia that are offering higher education programs. The colleagues have already indicated that the landscape of higher education in Namibia has been undergoing changes. We have seen changes in terms of number and in terms of diversification. In 1992, we had a record of 601 and 2 public institutions, or 1 public institution. Then that figure grew by more than 100 times. That by 2021, that is the records that we have complete as of today. We are currently processing the 2022 data, but our records in 2021 stood at 69,000. We have also seen growth in institutions. As I indicated earlier, we have, as of today, we have 19 institutions offering higher education programs. Until the year 2012, the data that is available is only for public institutions. But since 2012, the government introduced the Higher Education Management Information System, and we have since been capturing data from public and private institutions. Among all our institutions, only one private among the private institutions, only one private higher education institution offers master's and doctoral programs registered on NQF. Our public universities are offering much broader range of undergraduate and postgraduate programs, and according to the data of 2021, our institutions collectively were offering 672 programs. Out of these, 45 programs were at doctoral levels. And out of all the institutions that were recorded in 2021, 7 had less than 70 students in their enrollment. And out of all the programs, 190 programs had less than 10 students in them. These are programs in full operation, some of them 2 years programs, some of them 4 years program, but they had 190 had less than 10 students in their programs. If we compare our institutions according to some classifications that are used internationally, we could classify 3 of our institutions as universities. And in these institutions, there was an enrollment of 53,000 in 2021. These are institutions that are offering programs in more than 4 fields of learning and across all qualification levels. 2 institutions can be classified as institutes, and they are offering 75%, they have 75% of their qualifications in one field of learning. And then we could also classify 6 of the institutions as colleges, and 7 of them as specialized colleges. So this is just when we compare the typology of our institution and with some of the classifications that are used by our counterparts in the world. Now we look at the quality assurance system. It goes without saying that the robust higher education quality assurance system is imperative to ensure integrity of qualification and maintenance and upholding of academic standards. In our quality assurance system approach in Namibia, we use approaches of institutional registration and accreditation. We also have approaches of registration of qualifications and program accreditation, as well as institutional quality audit. This approach is supported by a wide range of regulatory framework as well as policies. We are all aware about the National Qualifications Authority law, the Higher Education law, the regulation for accreditation of persons in institutions and organizations, regulation of setting up national qualification framework, the regulations for evaluation of qualification, regulations for registering private higher education institutions, the quality assurance system for higher education in Namibia, and together with this, there are a number of laws that are regulating qualifications that are of professional nature. Those are the health professions, the law, and medical oriented programs. In terms of institutions, we have institutions that are operating as external quality assurance institutions, and at the center of that are the higher education institutions themselves. So in terms of external quality assurance system, we again have the National Namibia Qualifications Authority, which is responsible for setting up standards, setting up and administering the NQF. The NCHE, which is charged with the responsibility to register the private institutions and promote quality in higher education institutions. We have the professional bodies that are ensuring quality and regulating the offering of professional programs. And then we have the institutions themselves with their institutional quality assurance systems. In administering and implementing this regulatory and policy framework, we, the institutions that are responsible for external quality assurance and as well as the higher education institution, we have been experiencing problems related to or arising from the shortcomings in the national regulatory framework. In the regulatory framework that exists, there are no clear criteria for minimum requirements. In particular, the system lacks guidance on distinguishing between criteria of various types of institutions, higher education institutions, minimum standards for admission, minimum standards for academic staff, and a lot more. When we conduct quality assurance exercise, because of our higher education population, we mainly depend on experts or counterparts from outside the country. Many times, when they conduct that work, it is up to them to use what they know, either from literature or what they practice in their countries. Because we at home, we don't have such standards that can guide our work. So the use of existing guidelines has proven challenging, and when passing quality assurance judgments, it exposes the quality assurance agencies to criticism of lack of consistency and transparency. Furthermore, the diverse higher education landscape, I have shown you that we have, in total, in 2021, we had 18 institutions. Some of those have less than 70 students enrolled in them, and some of the program less than 10 students enrolled in them. So we cannot, or it is very difficult to treat a university of 3,000 students the same as an institution that has 50 students. And therefore, those challenges really dictated that we find some solutions. Consultations have been made, starting with the government chief legal advisor, that is the office of the Attorney General, and that office advised that since the law indicates that registration or the treatment of private institutions should be benchmarked on the standards that are in public institutions or that apply to public institutions, perhaps the best solution to this would be to develop the minimum standards for higher education, which should be met by public institutions, and that should be used as benchmark when we are considering the establishment of private institutions. The development of that or that advice falls within the provision of the Higher Education Act, which empowers the minister responsible for higher education under Section 44 to develop or to make regulations that are necessary to promote quality assurance in higher education. And because of the responsibility that is mandated to NCHE by the Higher Education Act, that responsibility was then assigned to NCHE. Initial work was done by the group of experts from our two public universities, UNAM and NAST, and that work was quality assured by international experts sourced from the International Network for Quality Assurance Agencies. The purpose of the minimum standards, therefore, is to safeguard the students, the academics, and administrative staff by ensuring sustainable higher education operations in Namibia, to ensure consistency, quality compliance, and transparency, and promoting articulation among higher education institutions and between higher education and other levels of education, and to supplement the current quality assurance systems with a robust set of metrics. The minimum standards that are proposed are grouped in 4 packages: a package that looks at the institution, package that looks at the programs, research, and resources. In terms of institutions, our concern is about the institutional designation, governance of the institution, as well as internal quality measures within that institution. In terms of programs, admission and enrollment, curriculum, academic and administrative staff, progression and graduation, and record management and phasing out of institutions. And then research, as well as the issue of infrastructure and facility as resources, finances, and student support services. We now look at the standards for institutions. There are 6 categories. The first 3 categories are those of the universities. There's the category of the university, which must have undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications, must be operating in more than 4 fields or more than 4 fields, and at least 3,000 students in enrollment. In terms of applied university, the same qualifications, except that 75% of the enrollment can be in 1 or more fields of learning. And then the enrollment is 1,500. A graduate university focus on graduate programs in 1 or more fields, and at least 200 students, of which 20% should be at a doctoral level. The other categories is that of institute, academy, and conservatorium. These are institutions that might enroll students in undergraduate and postgraduate. 75% or more are in 1 field, and at least 200 in enrollment. There are other details pertaining to this in the document. This is just a summary. And then we have a category of a college that can offer undergraduate and postgraduate programs, but the enrollment should be at least 500 students, and at least 75% of those students must be at undergraduate level. Specialized college is also a category of a college, except that here 75% of the programs can be in 1 field of learning, and that the enrollment is at least 50 students in a specialized college. So those are the categories of institutional designation. In terms of governance and administration, both the categories of the universities and institutes and academy or conservatorium, the governance is the same, the academic bodies are the same, the titular heads are the same, but for the university, we have a vice-chancellor, while for the institute, we have a rector. For the colleges and specialized colleges, the governing body can be a governing board. The body responsible for academic matters is academic council, and the administrative head is the rector. So those are the categories for institutional designation. We have also the 3rd category under institution, that is of quality assurance. Here, much of it is already what we have in the country, but the emphasis is just that there must be a structure or individual that is responsible or assigned the responsibility of quality assurance. And most importantly, out of the total budget of the institution, there should be at least 1% of the budget dedicated to quality assurance. And this does not include the salaries of the people that are recruited in that structure. So that makes up the category of the standards for institutions. In terms of programs, we have under programs admission, curriculum, staff, progression, and record management. In terms of admission and enrollment, the standards are designed in such a way that it allows smooth transition between the levels of education. Here, specifically, we are talking about from general education to higher education. We do have at general education 2 exit levels, one exit at NQF level 3 and another at NQF level 4. Standards are here to ensure that there is no jumping of a level from one level to another, in the sense that those who come from level 3, when they enroll in higher education institutions, they must enroll in the programs that have subjects that are starting at level 4. And those who are coming from level 4 from general education enroll in programs that are starting from level 5. For this, to facilitate this, there is a proposal to have a Namibian or uniform higher education evaluation point scale. At the moment, our institutions have different point scales according to their policies. But there is a proposal that we have one so that we make sure that we are able to administer the process properly. Discussions with the National Examination Board came to a conclusion that perhaps adopting this point scale would better suit the country. So this point scale indicates the different levels of our certificate, national certificates at AS, at ordinary level, and also at the levels that were used in the past system. So with that, then there is then standards of admission in terms of admission to bachelor degree. For example, here the issue is that for a student or somebody to be admitted to a bachelor degree, minimum 26 points with a combination of those points coming from AS and ordinary level. This is just the example with the current curriculum, but the information with the certificates from the previous curriculum, which is not much different from this, is also available in the document. So that can be a combination of 2 subjects at AS level and 3 subjects at O level, or 3 subjects at AS level and 2 subjects at O level. And also, in terms of the English, it's the idea is that English should be Symbol C for those students going to a bachelor degree. That is the ordinary bachelor, but we also have bachelor degrees in professional programs. In terms of the STEM programs, or for all professional programs, the minimum point is 32. But in terms of the STEM programs, it is the 2 subjects of which could be mathematics, physics, chemistry, or biology should be at C level, and then 3 subjects from ordinary level, and also again English here is at C level. For the non-STEM professional programs, it is also 2 subjects from AS level, from any of the subjects depending in the orientation of that qualification, and those subjects should be at C level. Then we also have admission to diploma. That's to be admitted into a diploma program, a student must have 24 points. Those 24 points can be all from ordinary level with English with a D symbol, or they can be a combination from ordinary and AS level. Admission to certificate, 19 points, again a combination from or could be O-level subjects or a combination from AS and O-level. I mean, yeah, AS and O-level. And there is also a proposal that if there is a combination from O-level and AS level, English can be at minimum at O-level. Minimum there is 1 in that scale that I shown earlier. Then the minimum standards also makes provision for articulation between TVET and higher education. And here is that when a student or a graduate from TVET has completed level 3, NQF level 3, that student can articulate into a certificate in the higher education system. If they have completed level 4, they articulate into a diploma. And if they have completed level 5, they can articulate into an undergraduate degree. There is also provision for alternative pathways, and this is now in terms of recognition of prior learning, where it is prescribed that it should not be more than 40% unless that qualification towards the prior learning is working to is similar to what is obtained in prior learning. And then there is also a guidance to say if you have a program, if people admitted in the program under prior learning, a group of those students should not be more than 10% of the total class in that program for that specific year. There is also a provision for credit transfer, and again, this is not something that is new. It is to say when the student who intends to transfer credit, they must earn 50% of the credits in the program they are transferring into, and that transfer should happen within a period of 5 years after the qualification has been obtained. Then there is a provision of student-staff ratio. For all programs, the minimum 35 students to 1, but there are exceptions in terms of laboratory and studio-based issues, programs, clinical health program, medical health program, and arts. There are also different ratios for postgraduate program as well as for doctoral programs. There is also a guidance that students, number of students in an undergraduate program in full operation should be at minimum 50. So full operation meaning from first year to last year. So the minimum total of students in such a program should be 50. And the minimum number of a new program that is just being introduced should be at least 10. There are also guidances in terms of curriculum, the ratios, curriculum in terms of the partitioning between theory and practice, also with issues related to face-to-face, online and on-the-job training, as well as the mixture or the blending between fully online programs and the blending is the face-to-face, online and on-the-job training, and also the ratios between the full online and the on-the-job training. We can see there the ratios in terms of undergraduate, postgraduate, as well as the PhD levels. There are also guidances in terms of staff, full-time academic staff as compared to part-time academic staff, as well as administrative staff as compared to full-time equivalent staff. There are different categories for undergraduate, for master's degrees, and for doctoral degrees. What is also important to note here is that under the undergraduate program, 65% of staff should be in possession of terminal degrees, and in the master's program, 90% of staff should be terminal degrees, and for doctoral program, 100% of those staff. There are categories in terms of qualifications and expertise of lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, and full professor. Here I have just picked the example of the associate professor, that the workload for an associate professor in terms of teaching, research, and community engagement, also the qualification that the person must have, the years of service, as well as the evidence of the community service or community engagement that should be present. And in both cases of associate and full professors, the promotions must be externally reviewed by peer experts. Then we are under the categories of progression and graduation. 66%. In this case, there are really problems when we are compiling student progressions to say how many were progressed to the next year and how many progressed to the last year. So there was a consensus reached that students could be considered as having progressed to next year. They must have fulfilled 66% of the prescribed credit in a particular year. And in terms of the doctoral degree, they must have fulfilled that the students that are enrolled in that institution are secure in the event that this institution has to phase out. So that completes the category of the program minimum standards. In terms of research, the concerns here is measuring the efforts that the institution is putting in research, and this is looked at the number of research productions per academic staff. This is now not necessarily each staff, but it's the average in the institution that is being talked about here. The ratio of research active academic staff as a percentage of the total or full-time equivalent staff. Also, the differences in terms of the typologies or the designation of the institution, that at the university level, and also, for example, the ratio of research active academic staff at the university level is 1 to 5, whereas at the institutes and academies is 1 to 7, and then at the college or specialized college, that the ratio of academic staff engaged in relevant pedagogy or research as percentage of overall full-time equivalent is 1 to 15. So these are the considerations in terms of the research standards. And finally, in terms of resources, we are looking at infrastructure and facilities. Here, the concern is the classroom seat ratio, the laboratory seat ratio, the non-structural infrastructure ratios, that is now like the libraries and others, as well as the academic staff infrastructure ratio. There are guidelines included in the minimum standards per different fields of learning that are prescribing these occupational norms. And then also the issue of the internet, which is always a problem when accrediting programs or auditing institutions, that internet on campuses are found very weak, and nowadays it is becoming an essential component of teaching and learning, and therefore there is a guidance that there should be 100% access to internet by academic staff and students on campus of the specific institution. There are also guidances in terms of library, in terms of online access, as well as other library materials. In terms of finance, for an institution that is just being established, that institution should show evidence or should secure a guarantee or surety from a financial institution that confirms that that institution has in possession an amount of money that is equivalent to the total enrollment of the first year in that institution. For an institution that is already in operation after the first year, each institution should show at any point in time that they have sufficient money to undertake operation for the next 3 years. And in terms of the universities and the academies and institutes, at least 6% of the budget should be allocated to research. Finally, in terms of student support, there are guidelines in terms of career service officers, in terms of academic advisors, and also in terms of counselors for mental health for the well-being of students. So these are the 4 sets of minimum standards, and these standards will be applied in the establishment of public institution. When a public institution or a public university or college is to be set up, it will be subjected to these standards when approved. And when the institution is a private institution is to be registered, it will also be subjected to these standards. During institutional accreditation and re-accreditation, during program accreditation, during the quality audit exercise, and in any other case, as and when required by the Ministry or by the Line Ministry of Higher Education and Technology and Innovation. Director of Ceremony, this brings me to the end of the presentation.